Hello everyone, once again this is Psalmist here. Today I just want to speak to you about the falsehood that religions cause war. And this falsehood of course is spread by atheists and scientists who do not believe that there is God. So what they say is that most of them don't reason by using the Bible and say that in the Bible there were so many wars, and these wars were mostly fought by the Israelites, of course. When God was saying that they must destroy the nation so that they can inherit the land. So what they're saying is that because of they wanted to spread their religion of Judaism, they were killing people. But that's not a fact, because in the Bible, when either Joshua or Moses were destroying the nations, they were not trying to spread a religion. Because to spread a religion is to make a nation which was not the same religion as yours to be the same religion as yours. That means that, Muhammad, when he was going around, in North Africa and other parts of Europe, he was spreading a religion. You see, but in the Bible, the Israelites were not spreading a religion. They were executing the judgment of God. Because they take what the atheists and the scientists don't understand is that the very thing that they oppose about what God has done in terms of the judgment of the nations, in terms of the judgment of those who were sinning against Him. It's the same thing that if they were to have their own society, which is atheistic, that they will need to do. If you were to take, let's say, a country like the United States or the UK, in the UK and the United States and South Africa and Russia or any kind of country, they have laws, and these laws must be enforced. That's why almost every country has a police force. The police force is the people or the department which is responsible for law enforcement. You see, so the legislature makes the laws, the police enforces the laws, the judiciary makes sure that any transgressors are dealt with accordingly. Do you see that? So all these countries have these things. They have the legislature which makes the laws, they have the police department which enforces the laws, and they have the justice system which makes sure that transgressors are dealt with. And no atheist can oppose a need for that, because if you have human beings, there's a need for regulation. Regulation means that you are making sure that everyone is doing things according to the laws of that nation or that institution or that country. Because in the very laws of nature, which atheists and scientists believe that exist, those laws regulate to make sure that everything does according to its nature. The laws are not there to oppress; they are there to regulate. So the laws of nature regulate nature so that it could always be natural. You see, so when they say that religion causes wars, it's an argument to make religion look bad. So it's like when you oppose something, you just want to make the other person look bad. So in terms of politics, when you have two candidates vying to be the president of a country, you know at the beginning, of course, most of them will talk about what they're gonna do and how they're gonna benefit people when they become the president. But towards the end of the campaign, towards the time when now people have to cast their votes to decide who should be the president, what you're gonna hear is slander and insults. Why? Because they have said everything that they can say about themselves. And because there's nothing more that they can say, the only thing that is left to say is slandering the other person to make them look bad, so that if anyone maybe was undecided based on what they've had, based on what they can benefit from on what the politician said is going to do, they make the other person look bad, just so that the person can decide in terms of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Meaning that if you are my enemy and then the other person thinks that, oh, that person is bad, it's not going to benefit me, that means they're going to have to come to me based on that, not based on what they I'm gonna do for them. So atheism and scientism, sometimes when they oppose religion in terms of saying religion does this, 1, 2, 3, Joshua went to, Jericho or to a tribe or to a nation, killed all the women and children and their goats and their dogs and everything. Religion is so bad, you cannot be religious. Do you approve of these things? So it means that a person who's neither atheist or religious just merely go on living their lives without approving or disapproving or opposing or agreeing with any of these two viewpoints might decide to become atheists, because there has never been a time in which atheism or atheists have went to kill other people for whatever reason, because it's just a new worldview. It's just a few decades old, or probably just over a century old. So a person makes a decision to be an atheist based on that. But I would like to present to you, my listener and my viewer, about what atheists and scientists don't talk about when it comes to wars. When it comes to wars and what is happening in the world today. You can use the Bible and say that, God caused wars in spreading religion. Muhammad caused wars in spreading his religion of Islam. You can use that. But as a Christian, I can reason and say that that was not a spreading of religion. That was the judgment of God, who's sovereign over the whole of creation, who's sovereign over the universe, and was taking care of the transgressors of his laws, as would a judiciary of a country, as would the police department of a country, who will ensure that the laws that they've made in their legislation are submitted to. It was not a spread of a religion. It was not a spread of a religion. It was punishment of sin. It was taking care of criminals who have transgressed the laws of God. The same way as police will take care of criminals who transgress the laws that the legislature make in a country. So that would be a Christian, reasoning of saying it was not the spread of religion. These people, and someone might say, but what were these people doing? Well, these people transgressed the laws of God. One of those laws was that every creature must worship God. You may not agree or disagree with with what those laws are, but don't think about you disagreeing or agreeing of whether God is right or wrong. Just think about it in terms of He made the laws, and then everyone who was under Him must follow into in according to those laws. Just like in America, you had slavery, and then black people do not agree with slavery. But there was punishment of anyone who was black who didn't want to be a slave. You see, so but because it was lawful for Americans, for white Americans to have slaves, so it was a law. So you may not agree with the laws of God, but because he had enough power, to execute those nations through his people who were the Israelites, he did it. Just like the Americans had enough power to execute those who did not want to be slaves, because they had the power to do so, because they had a law and they had a means to enforce the law. If you can think about that in terms of Americans enforcing slavery, South African white people enforcing apartheid, and God enforcing his laws, objectively, without neither being religious or being an atheist, just looking at, you have an authority which has laws, and then this authority has a means to enforce those laws, and this authority also has the power and the means to punish transgressors of these laws, without you thinking about God being, God of a religion, and then without you thinking of a government being an oppressive government. Then you can logically say that yes, an authority is able to make the laws, and then the subject under that authority, whether they choose to be under that authority or not, because no one chose to be a slave, and no one chose to be under apartheid, and no one can say that I chose to be under God so he can do what he wants with me. If you objectively think about it like that, then you can agree that God was right in doing what he's doing in that context. Not right in terms of what you define right as or what God defined right as. No, in that context of saying you have an authority with laws, enforcing those laws, and executing judgment over the people who transgress those laws. As I said, that I want to tell you about what atheists and scientists don't tell you. about wars. Well, you say as an atheist or a scientist that religion causes wars, and you can say that the who was these people who were working for the Catholic Church and go into the nations? The Crusades. So the Crusades were going around killing people. You could say that they were spreading the religion of Christianity at the time, which was Catholicism before we had Protestant religion of Christianity. So you can say that was also a spread of religion, and they were killing people. But you don't talk about the modern day wars, the First World War, the Second World War, the kind of wars that we've had between the nations for whatever reason. If religion causes wars, who makes the guns? Is it not the scientists who make the guns? Is it not the scientists who make gunpowder? Is it not the scientists who are making the chemical weapons, the biological weapons in a lab? So you have atheists making biological weapons, making chemical weapons, making bombs, making nuclear weapons. So they are giving them to the religious people to kill each other. Yet they are saying that it is the religions who caused the wars. First, let me tell you something. The manufacturing of weapons is a business. And if I'm making t-shirts, I need these t-shirts to be sold, to be bought, so that I can make a living. Because if no one buys the t-shirts, I'm not going to make a living. And I'm not going to have the means to keep producing these t-shirts. But, I mean, so if you understand that in terms of business as supply and demand, that you need demand so that you could have supply, it means that the people who are making the guns and the bombs and the biological weapons and the chemical weapons and the mechanical weapons, which are the guns, of course, they would need them to be used so that they could keep making them, so they could keep making money. So you can ask yourself now, who causes the wars? Is it the religious people who need the guns to be bought? No, the religious people don't make the guns. It is the atheists, the scientists who are making the guns. So it is them who need, a demand so that they could supply. So it means that if you look at it in terms of the argument of saying that the religions are causing war because they need people to believe in what they believe, so they enforce people, to believe what they believe, and those who do not believe, they kill them. So in the very same mindset, in the very same kind of thinking, you will say, well, if it is the scientist who's making the guns, if it is the scientist who's making the bombs, for him to keep making them, for him to be able to buy material, for him to be able to make a living, because this is a way of making a living, for him to earn a salary at the end of the month, he can buy clothes and food, he will need these guns to work. But these guns don't work because somebody is putting a bottle there and shooting it as target practice. Now, these guns work when somebody is pointing at another person and shooting them and killing them. So how then can a religious person be the one who's causing the wars? Because a religious person does not benefit from a gun being used. A religious person does not benefit from a bomb being used. A religious person does not benefit from a chemical weapon being used. It is only the scientist who denies that there is a God who has benefit. He makes money from it. And because he makes money from it, he most likely would want to have a war. Because the greatest means in which weapons can be used, which are made by scientists, is a war. You see, because if you have peace, there's no war, and everybody is not breaking any law, and the police are not using their guns, the scientist can't make money. And because he can't make money, he can't make a living. He can't buy food. That means now companies which make these weapons will have to retrench people. Why? Because nobody's buying their product, which is the weapon. But for them to have any kind of means of making a living, there would have to be a war. There would have to be a crime. So that the police could use their guns and you shoot the bullets so that the scientists could keep producing the bullets. Is demand and supply. The demand is for safety in a community or in a town or a city, And that safety is enforced by guns. By pointing a gun at a person and say, hey, don't do that. If that person can do that, they shoot. And if there's too much unrest, that means too many people causing discord. You're gonna need more police. And when you have more police, those police will have to carry guns. And those guns are made by scientists because they are mechanical weapons. And in a war situation where bombs are dropped, by planes, by all this kind of machinery flying in the sky, which are made by the scientists. So it is them who will benefit from a war. A Christian cannot benefit from a war because a Christian, what he wants, he needs people to submit to what he's teaching. So he needs people to be alive. But a scientist will need people, to die, and some of them live so that the guns could be used. Do you see that? So it is falsehood to spread this thing that the religions are causing the war. You can use the spread of religion in terms of Islam, but in the Bible there was no spread of any religion. Religion was not spread. The religion of Judaism was for the children of Israel exclusively. No one was forced to be or killed or threatened with a spear or a sword so that they could be, they could believe in God. No, God, commanded that everyone who did not believe in Him and were, killing their children as sacrifices to their false gods should be killed. It was not spreading religion. It was execution of the judgment of God upon the people who did not believe in God, thus were behaving or living lawlessly in accordance with what God defined as law. But the modern day warfare is fought by guns and weapons made by scientists. And because they have companies which manufacture these weapons, it is them who need their weapons to be bought. Because if their weapons don't get bought, they can't make money, they can't make a living. So why would then scientists accuse the religions of creating the wars? Because of creating wars? Because even if you have a terrorist who's gonna go into the middle of a train station and attach bombs on himself and then detonate so he can also die, killing other people as well, he needed a weapon made by a scientist, or he needed means which were created by scientists. So he copied from them, because you can't have a religious person having a sword or a spear inside a train station, killing thousands of people. It will be impossible for him to do it. He will kill one before he can even kill the second person. He will be grabbed by other people. Do you see that? So whether indirectly or directly, the atheists or the scientists will admit that yes, science does contribute towards war, murder, and destruction. Whether they will admit it or not admit it, but the fact says that they do. Because any bomb that has ever exploded in a train station or destroyed a building was created by a scientist. Remember, to be a scientist, you don't have to study at Harvard, or Cambridge or Oxford. All you need to do is take the means which were invented or discovered by scientists to create a bomb. That means even though I might be religious, but for me to make a bomb, I will need what scientists have already done before to copy from that. The formula, everything. I'll copy from them. So I'll be copying from their own ingenuity. So it's scientific ingenuity to destroy through bombs and guns. You see? So it is not the religions who are causing the wars. Maybe in the past, but now it's not the religions. It is those who have manufacturing companies which are scientific companies. Because they benefit from their guns being used, and they need to have a demand for their guns so that they could, fulfill by supplying this demand. So it is most likely the scientist who causes the war than the religious person. So that is all that I have to say about this subject. And if you have anything to say about this subject, you can leave your comment below. And if you love to receive content like this, you can subscribe to my channel so you can receive content like this. Thank you for listening.